everyone. Welcome to, I want to say Daily Blast Live, but this is things are a little bit different today. Jeff just commented on my hair. Yep. We are clearly...
See you in HR?
We're clearly not on air, although we are playing our best of today. We are here, we're in the studio. We're prepping for season 2. Some of us are in our Sunday's best because Al's been doing satellite interviews all day in regard to his incredible statement from Friday about the NFL protests, and it's gone viral. So that's why we're here. We really want to talk more about this discussion because it clearly struck a chord with all of us, everyone in the room that day. We were all teary-eyed, and then obviously everybody at home feels like that you spoke for, with such truth, the people out there that feel, or are rather, marginalized. We have questions, or do we want to start with questions, or what's that?
Why don't you recap a little bit about what happened over the weekend?
Oh my gosh. Al, why don't you take it away, because you were experiencing it firsthand.
Oh, okay. First of all, this is awesome. But yeah, the way I remember it's kind of a blur. Brandon, I remember I was so taken back by your thoughts, because what we were doing is we led the show with the NFL kneeling protest. Obviously, we know what's been going on with that. If you don't know, just put it into Google and catch yourself up. But Brandon, you had such a unique perspective because not only do you come from a family full of veterans, but you played in the NFL. And this isn't some kind of hypothetical situation for you. This is a decision that you have had to make, a decision that friends of yours currently have to make and will have to make. So your thoughts were so interesting to me. And as I was sitting there, I was just like, I was getting upset that it's like, why did Brandon have to justify with pictures of his grandfather like his patriotism? And it really came to a head for me that I didn't like the fact that they were conflating these protests, which anybody that's taken any amount of time knows this is about police brutality, and conflated with the veterans and using the veterans and the service that they give for his country, and to use it as some kind of punchline at the end of a sentence to shut somebody down, because they know what it is. It can be used as a tool to manipulate, where if you say anything that I don't like, I'll be like, oh, Sam, I guess you don't support the troops. And so like, what do you say to that? It's a way to end a discussion. And then we here at Daily Blast Live, we start discussions, and so
and they can be uncomfortable.
Very, very much so, and it's okay, and that's what the protests are about. It's about being uncomfortable. So, Brandon, I'll just wrap this up and then go to you, and we'll pass the mic. But basically, I just got frustrated because as somebody that's done USO tours and seen the sacrifice, honestly, you know, I was in Los Angeles this weekend seeing my kids. The reason that I'm able to do that, the reason I'm able to be away from my kids 5 days a week and go see them for 2.5, is because I saw the sacrifice of these soldiers, where I would talk to people and they'd be like, I haven't seen my kid in 9 months. So I can't even fathom that. So for me to have to go 4.5 days, it sucks, but being with our veterans, I can do it. So I really bonded to those troops when I was out there. So for me to be accused of not supporting those men and women who are giving the ultimate sacrifice of not only their life, but just their real life. Their real life. They're missing birthdays. They're missing first steps. They're missing graduations. So we can sit over, and so for anybody to use that sledgehammer as a way to shut down the kneeling protest, I thought was despicable, and that's what caused that reaction. So,
and I think regardless on how certain people feel about the way they're trying to protest, I think you just have to realize it's preseason right now. No one's made a team. So if you're still taking a knee, I guess the 12 guys who took the knee, you can be cut. You know, it's the NFL, not for long. You could be cut for any reason. So if you're still taking the knee right now, you feel that strong about this protest. And, you know, I didn't want to feel like I had to justify my patriotism. I think it's something where I would like to bring light to what the guys are doing off the field. Bo, we talked about it, and you know, you all have gotten to know Bo and how he loves the veterans and how he does stuff with the veterans. And we talked about the USO. We talked about how the NFL has partnered with the Pat Tillman Foundation. We've talked about how the NFL has partnered with the Wounded Warriors Project, and how there's a Salute to Service Month. The NFL spends millions, I don't want to say billions, they spend a lot of money on sending its players overseas to be on military bases like you have. I've been to Wiesbaden, I've been to Klagenstadt in Germany. That was on my own dime. You know, the NFL, the New York Giants, I went and did a play 60, but I paid my own way to go out there and to talk to the veterans and to talk to these kids on how they feel about being away from their USA. And, just when you light up when you hear a kid go, do you know Odell? And I try to do the Odell dance, and they look up to these players. So if these players feel that strongly about it, about this protest, it's clear to see that they're in it and in it for the long run. And you look at guys like Malcolm Jenkins with the Malcolm Jenkins Foundation, 100K in scholarships. You look at Michael Thomas. I went to his football camp. He's teaching kids financial literacy, teaching them SAT, ACT prep. Going and guys like Snacks Harrison with the New York Giants and Olivier Vernon.
Best name ever.
Snacks Harrison. Snacks Harrison. They went on a ride along with the Camden Police. And that was something I was telling Bo, but this is not what we're seeing. This is not what we're talking about. We're not going, hey man, I saw that Giants piece you did with Snacks and OV, and those guys, you know, riding around with the Camden Police and bringing the community to get together with the police. We're not talking about that. All we're talking about is there was 12 NFL players who still kneeled. So I read the comments, and it wasn't even about them attacking you. It wasn't about attacking me. It was people just going back and forth with each other. When are we going to draw that line where it's like, I understand you're from where you're from, that side of the railroad tracks, or you have a family member that does whatever, and you feel strongly about the flag and your patriotism. But when are you going to listen to the other side, and vice versa? You know, so and I hated the fact that I heard today that you all were attacked, Sam and Jeff, because I think you two and even you, Bo, like the way we have our conversations, even when it gets heated in that 8 o'clock meeting. We all leave that meeting. Hey, that's good. Hey, I didn't think of that perspective. And there's times when Erica, you and Bo go at it. I'm like, I would have never thought of that perspective. So I get if you feel strongly about something, you're going to be passionate about your voice and what you have to say, but it doesn't mean that you're completely right when it comes to something.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it from there because I thought what my man did on Friday was incredible. I got so choked up. If you only watched a 2-minute clip where Al says everything you need to hear, that's great.
We were all listening.
We're all listening very intensely. I was trying not to get emotional. If you watch the whole 15 minutes, I do get emotional at the end. I couldn't even say what I really wanted to say because I was so proud of him, so proud of you, so proud of this show. And then someone took a little screen grab of me and Sam. Where it appears that we're not listening. That's not the case at all if you've seen that screen
grab. And let me just
grab.
say this, I've been cutting and pasting just in responses to DMs that I'm getting. I'm like, we're a live show. They were looking at time cues because we have people in our ear and people off camera saying wrap, cut, move to the next thing. So you're like, it's our job to glance.
Right.
You can't just keep talking on live TV because the show will cut off, go to commercial. So that's all. So
right, and we're in a working stage. We're not in offices. There's people moving around all the time. So if that's what it appeared to be like that wasn't the case at all. And I saw a lot of people retweeted that, and I think it got like 20,000 retweets. It got a lot of traction just from a simple screen grab. And going back to what you're saying, people are so divisive on this topic, they didn't even look into what the context was. They saw a screen grab, and that was clickbait, and they clicked it, and they hated on the comment without even reading the article, without even looking at the full 15 minutes. And I think that's what's wrong with America. I think that's what's wrong with social media. You look at something, you get one piece of information, you don't know the whole story, and then you comment on it. I mean, people really have to check themselves on that issue because you're taking away from what Al did, which was a fantastic moment.
I was just going to say that because not only was what happened in that room that day when Al and Brandon spoke for millions of people out there that clearly were just glad that they were emulated just through what you guys said. But what Jeff said at the end of that, to me, represented what we need to work on in America. Because he took it all in and he sat there and said, man, I learned so much from you. If people would just listen. And it really bothered me that nobody got to see that example of our show because we do all come from different backgrounds. We all have different opinions. We all have different, sometimes we will agree to disagree on this show, right? And it can get uncomfortable.
And we've ended segments like that. Like we agree to disagree, but we still go to lunch.
But I agree.
It's funny, you know?
Yeah, 100%. But to see Jeff take a moment, listen and say, I learned a lot from you, bro, over the last year, and be in tears, and that to be twisted somehow.
Yeah.
It really it bothered me. It affected me all weekend because I thought what a perfect example of our show was to have that moment coupled, obviously, with this powerful moment. But I think we can't control social media. If anything, I hope people out there can, if you had that initial thought, that you thought that I was tuning out or I sighed, if you thought, which I got all weekend, oh my God, white fragility, she sighed, when in actuality, I was probably just so...
taken back.
Not even taken aback because I've heard him. If you guys start to follow our show, you'll see we have raw, uncomfortable moments like this. And I was just ready for his moment. I was ready to hear Al's truth. And I was listening with every bone in my body, despite people telling me in my ear, rap, 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 2 minutes before I did finally rap him. Time cues, our stage manager doing this. So I just want people to, if anything, take a moment, as Jeff, what Jeff just said, and before you do retweet and have a comment, try and educate yourself with the full context because it's really important. What are some of the viewers saying?
And real quickly, I'm just wearing the shirt randomly. I'm not trying to make a statement. I saw that. I'm like, people are going to be like, he's wearing that shirt to be like, what? No, that's not it.
Come on, Jeff. We know that you're I do have to say, though, because I obviously was also in the whole, like, watching what was happening on social media thing this weekend. And I think what I feel is that most of us have been here doing this for a year. And it's so second nature to us. I mean, we've had these comments on air, off air, like amongst all of us, maybe one-on-one. Yeah, yep, these are conversations, like what you're talking about really is what we're talking about all the time. So like even having this moment, it was such a powerful moment, but that's who I know Al to be. That's exactly what I was expecting him to say in some regard. And us sitting back, it's so much harder to sit back and listen to someone and give them the floor than it is to jump in. And we love jumping in, like keeping the conversation going. But when someone's truly on a thought process that you know that they need to get it all out, let them regurgitate what it is that they need to do. And that's what I feel like we all did. We were all in agreement in somehow or in some forms, but at the end of the day, we were giving our brother, our co-host, his moment. And that's what respect is, and that's the type of respect that we have for each other on this show. So I think it's important that people understand that as well. But we do have some comments from DBO Nation.
Can't wait to hear the comments.
Shirley Lewis on Twitter says, I sat silent for 5 minutes after hearing this man speak. What is the magic that will create a group that can take on a subject like this? We see it, we feel it, but move on to the next thing in our lives without missing a beat. The word is how. Kelly Hickman on YouTube says, these players' rights to peacefully protest is covered by the First Amendment, which is part of what our military put their lives on the line to protect. Tiffany Largy on Twitter says, this by far is one of the most clearest truths spoken in this country in the past 48 hours publicly. At Daily Blast Live, now because of this, you are on my radar. Thanks, Al Jackson, 100. I'm going to keep listening. And there's so many more, and just keep them coming because we're monitoring your comments and we want for you to join the conversation as well.
I was just want to get Bo in over here.
Yeah, we're on the same page. So, Bo, you were part. Now we do 3.5 hours live every day. So we are live in every time zone. The first hour is when you heard at the 12 o'clock hour, depending on where you are. 12 o'clock here Mountain Time is when you heard Al's powerful statement. The second hour we continued the conversation. Bo was part of that conversation, and Bo, you had a different take to this. But again, that's the example of our show, is we can respectfully have these conversations because, as Brandon said, who's right in this? Why does it have to be about who's right, who's wrong? Why can't it be just a conversation and we come together as people? So, Bo, why don't you talk a little bit about what you said the second hour of the show?
Sure. Time.
Well, I think we had a pretty complete discussion that second hour, and I really appreciated what both Al and Brandon had to say. Al, because I think you rightly say that veterans are being used as pawns in this, which I don't think anyone wants. And then Brandon, for someone who's been there in the NFL, who knows what that's like to be on that field. I think that is a testament to where we are as a show and the diversity of opinions that are there. My comment on the show is that I don't think that President Trump should have injected himself in this conversation the way that he did. I think that, can contribute to the divisive nature that we've talked about of our show. Having said that, there are, a lot of people across this country who, they see one thing and that is their perception. We all talk about perceptional things in context, just like we talked about, you see a tweet in 2 seconds and then you jump right all over it. I've been the brunt of this week and then since I've been here, so I know what that's like. I do want to talk about some of the consequences of some of the things that are happening too. Like I read today that some of the South Florida police are now going to either boycott or to remove the ticket program they have with the Dolphins because they were told we were on the understanding that the Dolphins were doing a first responders day and we get there and we see the kneeling, so we decided to leave and wanted refunds. So my concern as we look at this, I believe you can either be part of the problem or you can be part of the solution. I want to talk about solutions, and Brandon you and I talked about this. So one unintended consequence of this is now you have police that are upset because they now feel they're offended by the situation. So we've talked about veterans, now we're going to go back to police, we're talking about the flag, we're talking about the song. I just want to run something by you and everybody and just see what you think, because this potentially could be a solution. And I'm no genius, but I just think that this is something that may work out. And I think a coach said this, if we could give those players an opportunity in a post-game press conference to talk about the issues that are on their heart, it will give them a national forum to say what's on their minds. And I believe that people who are football fans would watch that and say, Brandon London, you have a beef about police brutality right now. I want to know why you feel that way. I can watch you say that. And now it's no longer a kneel. It's no longer a fist in the air. It is, I'm listening to Brandon London speak about this very important issue to him. What do you think about that? And do you think that that is a possible, viable solution we could get to?
I think it could be, but at the same time, we're going on year 3 of the protest. These guys have consistently said what the initial protest is about. They always come out. Anytime Malcolm Jenkins has that national floor to speak, whether it's NFL Network, ESPN, he consistently talks about the racial injustices and, just injustice and police brutality. So, and remember when we talked, when I was kind of telling you what these guys are doing off the field, and you said just the initial protest alone automatically turns people off. They don't want to hear. It can turn people off. So you're still talking to the same audience. The people who are going to watch that post-game interview are the ones who feel like, yeah, guys, keep taking that knee, guys, keep showing it, keep speaking up for people who don't have that platform. But then the other half who are like, no, you need to stand up, it's disrespectful. They're going to shut their TV off and they're going to 60 Minutes or they're going to watch something else. So I look at it as a sense of, you can't tell another grown man to stand up. So I personally, I can't tell you when those guys are going to stand up. Or I can't say, hey guys, we've had a week of no police brutality. There's not going to be that. There's always going to be some sort of video that comes up. There's always going to be police brutality. And the fact that now the police are wanting to take their services or not be there at Dolphins games, that's going to be an issue. That's going to be a problem now.
Yeah, because a lot of the NFL stadiums use off-duty police officers for their support. So see, this is where we are again. I mean, now we've got the police saying we're not going to go and protect the game and the players if that's how you guys are going to act. Now, I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong. I'm just saying this is a consequence we've seen over the weekend. So as we look for solutions, I'm trying to find out, guys, what's the balance between the players being able to get their message across, but also not, I guess, offending, if you want to use that word, so many people who see that as disrespect, whether the message in their mind is right or not. Because the players are saying one thing and the fans are hearing something else. So I'm trying to get to that balance.
I think what the problem is and what I fear is this pitting against one another. This pitting against veterans versus football players versus police officers, when over the weekend all I saw on social media were veterans speaking out saying, hey, I fought for this country so people could have the freedom of speech. And police officers saying, hey, I may stand for the flag or maybe I agree with kneeling, but it was the freedom of choice. So I think we need to stop pitting people against each other and make this about parties, make this about political parties, make this about police officers, veterans, citizens, and just hear one another. And hear that a black man still is not treated equally in America. Hear that. Put yourself in that person's shoes and think, hey, me, as a woman of white privilege, every time I'm pulled over, I'm not scared for my life. I can't imagine what it must be like to look in my rearview mirror and be like, oh my God, I have 3 kids at home. I may not be going home to them. I think if we listen to people, like Jeff said on Friday, then we don't have to make it about this person versus that person. Instead, if you lead with empathy, then I think we can get a solution.
Right, and just to kind of piggyback off your thoughts and to answer Bo's question, at the same time, you're listening to a man that has had the revolver of a police officer's pistol 1.5 inches from my face. I have been assaulted by the police. This isn't some kind of hypothetical situation that we're kind of trying to talk through. This happens on a daily basis. We catch it on camera and it's still explained away. So what do you think happens when there is no camera? When that body cam is shut off for whatever reason, or we can't get the audio for whatever reason? I cannot base my protest on how it hits somebody's ears. If I tell somebody I am protesting because I'm tired of seeing people that look like me be assaulted by the police, and somebody says, well, you don't like the military, well, then we can't have this conversation.
True.
I mean, it's just a thing where we have to, it's either you hear me or it's not. It's like, if I want to talk football with Brandon, but I think a touchdown is called a home run, well, we can't really talk football. We have another baseline that we have to go down to before we can even start to have that discussion. So when we start talking about what do we do with people that see as an insult to the military, that unfortunately, I'm sorry, but that's just something you're going to have to deal with. I've told you, this has nothing to do with the military. I'm not going to justify my dad's service. I'm not going to justify what I've done for the military. I'm not going to have Brandon do the same. I'm not going to have any of you guys do the same. But at the same time, I'm not going to keep restating my point. This is about police brutality. Say it to yourself. Say it out loud. Just say, go to the mirror and say police brutality 10 times in the mirror. And that will slowly start to get in your head. Just this whole military narrative has nothing to do with it. And you should question why this is in your head so much. Why has this been pounded into your head so much? There is a outside force who hires companies to figure out how to spin the narrative. They said, how are we going to divert this away from police tactics and get to where we want to get, which is letting the NFL players know that they stand up when we say stand up. They say put it on the military because they know everybody, man, woman, black, white, Hispanic, gay, straight, has a place in their heart for our military. And the ultimate disrespect that you can do to an American citizen is accuse them of not caring for the people that care for us. And so that's why I was so insulted. That's why I was so upset on Friday, is because it's a low blow, it's disingenuous, it's not factual, and it causes divisiveness. And you know what? You know the saddest part? It worked. It's still working. It works so well when I tell you it's not an insult to the military, people still hear insult to the military. That is the definition of brainwashing. That is the definition of how you change the narrative. You keep telling people that up is down and left is right. And here we are.
If I could, I just want to read one comment. I know this is not from a DBL user, but I actually looked this article up because it's from the Tennessean. So just to kind of play off what you said, Al. So it says, Jaron Jackson, a former Army officer and Ranger who deployed with the 101st Airborne Division and now lives in Oklahoma, said, "It doesn't bother me how people use their freedom. But," he said, "people who kneel during the anthem, whether they know it or not, push an anti-America message. And for him, that ain't cool. What gets me is that people don't use their freedom responsibly." So kneeling during the anthem does attack a powerful symbol, the flag in parentheses, and that'll predictably upset lots of people. So Al, we talked about how, you're right, pushing this towards veterans, because that's a winning cause, right? No one's going to go against the veterans. They support our country. So I don't think a lot of veterans want to be used as pawns. That's very, very clear. But this is a veteran saying, I fought for those people's right to kneel, and they have every right to do it, but he can see how some people would see that as an anti-America message. So that's the conflation I think we're talking about, is it's not just that everyone, like you said, Al, saying, oh, this is about the veterans, because it isn't always about that. It sends this message that some people, I guess, get deeply offended about. That's, I think, where we've got to change the narrative, is how can we really get these players' message across? And I know you said, Brandon, you've talked about it, Malcolm Jenkins talks about it, Al, you talk about it constantly, but how do we get that message loud and clear so where that kneeling to so many people sends an anti-America message? That's where I'm trying. I think that's where a lot of people want to process
Erica, yeah.
I just have to question if responsible, compliant freedom is really freedom at all. I think that we really have to get over the idea of having control over other people. like, it would be nice to have like a very kumbaya moment in order to talk about these very difficult topics, but the truth is there is no kumbaya moment, because injustice for anyone is injustice for everyone. And so until people can really understand, like, and step into other people's shoes, then we, as Al said, can't have a conversation. I know it's uncomfortable, people hate being uncomfortable, but the fact of the matter is it's uncomfortable having these conversations because these conversations are actually affecting real people's lives, people who we know and we love and we respect. Some of us are sitting on this couch. So it's nice to be able to have a conversation, and it's really nice to be able to come together and do it in a uniform manner. But when it comes to protests, I think that what we're really missing, the whole point is that it's meant to be uncomfortable so that change can be made. If you are comfortable, think about all the things that in your life that you're comfortable with. What incentive do you have to change it or improve it? Like, that's the definition of comfort. It's you're feeling good and where you are. So if we're all feeling good where we are, we have no incentive to change. And that's what people don't understand about protests or about the idea of throwing your opinions in to someone else's battle. You can be an ally. I mean, we've all been allies for situations that don't directly affect us. I mean, that's what makes true empathy in this country. It makes us truly empathetic humans. But if you start to put your beliefs and your comforts into other people's struggles, that equation will never work out. And that's just my opinion.
So let's
about it.
read comments. We need to get some comments from
Yep.
people are writing in and acknowledge.
Okay, let me,
Sorry.
all right, so let's start. Yes, we do have a lot of comments. We have, okay, Karen Taylor on Facebook. Listen, people, do not judge and divide our country. Until we walk in those affected shoes, how else will we know what's happening in our country? Let's come together. Willie Daniels, it's never been about the military. It's about the injustice in the Black communities. We have Tori Ray, kneel for the people fallen. We have Barb on Twitter. Thank you for giving all the hosts a platform to talk. We have Paul Ketchup. I'm a veteran. Also, I am in full support of the protest. We cannot dictate who and how to protest. Cleophas Williams on Twitter. I've been waiting for this. Let them have it. They don't like the truth when they're pushing lies. Expose the real. I think what Bo was mentioning, which I saw a lot, I spent a lot of the weekend monitoring everyone's reactions on social media. And
You were giving me updates.
yeah, I was giving Al updates, and the people, some people out there feel, a lot of you felt that it was the flag and the national anthem. By kneeling during that, it was a disrespect. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong, but what I have taken in just from, you know, watching everything on social, watching the protests, hearing what everybody has to say is the reason why they chose that national anthem during the national anthem to take a knee is because they don't feel like America has been equal to them. They don't feel like that America has protected them. They don't feel like when you can't even name the last 5 Black men that have been gunned down and killed. You can't name them all. Like, there's been so many over the last, I mean, God, decades, but the last few years where it's really come into hashtags, and I hate even saying that too. That's why we say things like say her name or say his name. It's because they don't feel protected by our country and because of the systemic racism is what I'm trying to say. So I think the reason why kneeling has been so powerful, yes, it's uncomfortable, but it's because do you feel sometimes protected or all the time protected by a country? If you felt like that you were to defend yourself against a white police officer or against a white male, do you feel like that you would get equal justice?
Absolutely not. I feel like, and this is, we kind of touched on this when we talked about the coupon pad, whatever, the coupon Carl. When we talk about, it seems kind of silly and almost funny. Not funny, but like when you read it, you see somebody called the cops on the little black kid for mowing the lawn. Somebody called the police for selling water. What my concern is much less about the phone call. My concern is who shows up. Because I know that if I call the cops 10 times, one of those times I'm going to end up shot. I think those are about my odds. Maybe 10% of the time that a police officer is in my vicinity, I'm going to be assaulted. That's how I feel. That's probably about what the national average is. You look at the comfort that these people had in calling the police. I said in a meeting one time, it's almost like they call the police at customer service. This woman's bothering me at CVS. I can hear this woman through my kids are trying to nap. I can hear this woman's taking a nap in the student union. This woman's barbecuing in the park. That's how comfortable that people are with using the police to get rid of people that they find distasteful. That's why when we think about how many thousands of college campuses we have, how drunk those kids get on the weekends. Do you think any white girls from Arizona State are worried about the cops beating them up and dragging them off or shooting them? Have you ever heard of a white college sorority girl be shot for unruly behavior? I sure as hell haven't, and I'm pretty sure they get turned up every night. So how come they're not being shot just so randomly? Filenio Castillo was murdered with his baby girl in the back seat. These are people that were not fighting. These are people that are running away. Eric Garner, I believe, was selling quarter cigarettes out in front of a corner store. He is dead now. So Eric Garner found out. Filenio Castillo found out. Everybody finds out. Freddie Gray. All these people that had to encounter the police realized that, I mean, if that cop's gun had gone off in 1998, I'm not sitting here with you guys. I'm a dead, you know what it is, especially before the internet? I'm a dead black man that reached for his gun. Not a college student that's 2 years away from a biology degree. So think about how many black men were reaching for their gun when they were killed. So we have video and it doesn't matter. So imagine how many cases, how many black men have been murdered by police and it's been covered up. So this is what I'm dealing with, and this is what we're constantly dealing with, is knowing that if we ever reach out to the police, if I have to call the police, somebody better be damn near dead. Because I would never think to call the police, because I know that that situation can result in myself or Brandon or anybody that looks like me being murdered or assaulted and it being swept aside. There's been one officer that's been prosecuted. One, and that's because he was caught on tape. He was the guy, I believe, in North Carolina that got caught shooting that older black gentleman in the back. I even forgot what his name is. Yeah. So
Mike Brown? Is that what
No, it wasn't Mike Brown. It was an older black man.
Oh. It's in South Carolina, right?
In South Carolina. So, so that's the reason. That's why the protests will continue. And I just hope people understand what I'm saying isn't some kind of hypothetical scenario that I've concocted by piecing together internet articles. This has been my existence over 41 years. I've been to all 50 states. I've been to 37 countries. I think I have enough of a slice of life to be able to make an accurate assumption about what a group of people does and how they react. So with that, I've talked enough. I'm going to give it to Brandon, and I'm done. Thanks.
And believe me, we're looking for a solution. You know, there's the protest. There's one set of people or blacks that feel like, oh yeah, the protest, take the knee. And then there's another side of blacks, like myself, my father, head football coach at Howard, who feels, and former police officer who feels as though being successful in this system that we deem is unfair to us, being successful and being able to send the elevator up for those who live in these communities who don't have a fighting chance to get out, I feel as though that's a protest within myself. I mean, within itself. You know, so I guess there's two different sides of it, but there is a solution, and there will be a solution. We just need to get past this uncomfortable part.
I pray so too, I really do. And I know we're kind of maybe wrapping things up here, it seems like, but you know, as someone who has to a lot of times bring forth the other side of things, and you know, that a lot of Americans are feeling, I do appreciate that you guys respect and listen to that side of things, because you know, to be quite honest with you, as a white guy, it is true that I will never understand the plight of some African American men and women, or Hispanic, or women for that matter. I'm not in that minority, so that's difficult. But I appreciate the fact that we can learn from these conversations. I've learned, and I hope that what we're doing now will create more solutions rather than problems.
All for that.
Here, I think I have a comment
Al's
to read.
gotta go, actually, is what.
Al has to go for an interview, so we got to wrap things up. It's on HLN. Make sure that you tune into HLN right now. Tune into HLN. Al's going to continue the conversation with an interview. We're proud of you, Al. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. As you saw here today, we have open and honest conversations. So make sure you tune into us Monday through Friday, 12 to 3. And then we're also, if we're not in your local city, we're also live on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. And we will
keep those comments coming, because just because one of us you may not agree with one of us, that doesn't mean we don't want to hear your voice, because like I said what I wanted to say, but I got so emotional. I've traveled all over the world, and I've learned so much from traveling around the world, and I've learned so much from Al Jackson. And if that point didn't get across, I apologize. But that's what I learned from. I learned from you, man. That was a very moving moment. I'm proud to be part of this team. I'm really proud.
Can I say something too?
Yes.
And can I just say this too? Please, 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 I implore you, keep comments respectful.
Yes.
They're hard on people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't care what color you are, what clothes you're wearing today. Be respectful. The internet, sadly, has created a more divisive situation than you can possibly believe. Don't criticize Brandon's coat. Don't criticize Jeff's jeans. Don't criticize Erica's hair or her pants. It's ridiculous. If you're going to say something, make sure you're heard. And the way to be heard is to make your point respectfully. Stop the personal insults. This is absurd. This show is not about personal insults. I've been getting a lot of them. I'm sure everybody here has gotten a lot of them too. That is not the way to create a conversation or to find a solution.
Amen. We just want to have real, honest, open conversations, and that means that you can agree to disagree. But let's just all put our heads together and lead with empathy. And that's it for us. That's it, right? So we will see you guys maybe tomorrow. We'll tune back in again. But have a great day. Please keep the conversation going, and we will respond. Mwah.
Good job, buddy.